Oh my god. You do not wear your best friend's boyfriend's clothes for any reason whatsoever. Period. Okay, so by now everyone is aware of this ridiculous drama that has been going on about, the boyfriend's sweater. So-called best friend was hitting on her friend's boyfriend, like in a sly way. And I thought this was the most ridiculous drama that I have ever seen. So I saw this original video of girl A, stating some of the obvious signs that her best friend was hitting on her boyfriend. I didn't even need to see the rest of the video because the fact that a so-called best friend asked her best friend's boyfriend to give her a piece of his clothing right in front of her it's just obvious. This girl, we're gonna call her A, was listing some of the other clues that she found out that hinted her best friend was hitting on her boyfriend. And girl, what clue? What other clue? The fact that your best friend asked your boyfriend if she could wear a piece of his clothing, like your man's clothing, right in front of you is just blatant disrespect. Plus, she knew what she was doing, girl. And this so-called best friend, we're gonna call her B. And she made a video stating that she only borrowed his sweater out of pure intentions. There was no meaning behind that. She was just cold. Girl, are you serious? It is girl code 101 to not even breathe the same air as your best friend's boyfriend. Since the ancient times, it has been innate in our blood as girls to not even touch the belongings of your best friend's boyfriend. Even if you're about to pass out from hypothermia, you don't wear your best friend's boyfriend's sweater. Ever. I would just rather pass out from hypothermia than wear my best friend's boyfriend's sweater. Even if my best friend pleaded, nay, begged on her knees to wear her boyfriend's sweater, I would not even wear the sweater, ever. It is our native trait as girls to usually hate the boyfriends of our best friend because we never think that he's ever good enough for her. Right off the bat, I can tell you this so-called best friend was not her best friend. I apologize for getting so upset, girlies. It's just, I had a very similar situation with my ex-friend as well. Like, I can never understand girls who do this. All I can tell you, girly, karma is going to get you. And do you know why karma? Is because karma is a girl. Don't upset karma. She is going to come for you. Anyways, that's it. And I feel like this girl needs to relearn her girl codes and come back because you are not a true girly girl. I cannot accept you. As a girly girl myself, I cannot accept you. Anyways, I hope my girlies, who are the most loyal girly girls out there, to have a great day.
Am I wrong for telling the truth about my best friend at her wedding? Story time. So my best friend, who we will call Amy, got married last week. Me and my partner Steve both just bought a house. I'm also expecting our son in January. So when I was asked to be maid of honour by Amy, I let her know that I would be extremely limited on what I could do, especially financially, because obviously we have a lot going on at the minute. But of course, I said that I would try my best. So we had the hen party. It was really, really fun. And then I also paid for mine and my partner's dinner at the meal prep. What's it called? Rehearsal dinner. And we also had a gift of £300, which we were going to give as well, but I'll tell you why I didn't give that later. So I was really enjoying the maid of honour duties until I started to get loads of random texts from her husband, who we'll call Dave. And towards the wedding day, it started to get, oh my god, there was so many. You know, because I'm like pregnant and I've just bought a house, I didn't always respond to him. And then if I didn't respond to him, I would get a call from Amy being like, why aren't you speaking to Dave? What's happening? So these are some of the reasons why Dave was messaging me. 1, I wasn't allowed to talk about my pregnancy at the wedding at all, which I get, but I'm also not going to take the limelight. 2, they made it very clear that they weren't going to order any special food for me because I was pregnant. I never asked for this. I was absolutely fine eating what everybody else was eating. Number 3, he was complaining that I wasn't helping him enough, even though he had a best man. He was complaining that I hadn't completed the favours or the seating charts yet, which none of that had been my job. 4, this is my favourite. He said if I was truly a great maid of honour, I would have offered to pay for the bar bill. 5, Dave wanted to approve my maid of honour speech, and he wanted his name to be mentioned as much as Amy's name would be mentioned. I was like, right babe, well I don't really know you that much, so you're not being included. And then verbatim, this man told me to just make some stories up. And then he made it very apparent that I wasn't allowed to mention anybody other than the 2 of them in any of my speeches. And there were to be no inside jokes about Amy that didn't include him. 6, he told me I had to keep it together and not let my pregnancy show throughout the whole entire wedding. Also, he wanted me to change the bridesmaid dresses so I wouldn't be matching everybody else's so that my bump couldn't be seen. I was absolutely shocked. So I spoke to Amy about it and she told me to just let it go for now and let it all pass. She distinctly said to not give her any jip because she was the one that had to deal with this behaviour for the rest of her life. So on the day of the wedding, all the bride and the groom do is scold me, berate me, talk down to me. I head down to the bar with Steve to go get a drink and Dave's mum is there and she tells Steve not to get drunk because I've ruined their day enough already. And at that point, I chose violence. I decided that I would be taking home that £300 gift that I decided to give them. I said, so can we all raise a glass? Whilst I quote Amy. I said, I wish you all the luck in the world because you're the one that's going to have to put up with this shite for the rest of your life. And I said, I'll support you through anything, even the divorce. So what do you think? Am I wrong here?
This case is my literal Roman Empire. I learned about it last year and I cannot stop thinking about it. Every time I meet a person, I tell them about this case because it's... Okay, so this is about Sabina and Ursula. They're twins. They're from Sweden. Grew up there. Cool. They're super mysterious. No one really knows anything about them. And at the time of this incident, Sabina had a partner and 2 kids and was living in Ireland. Her sister Ursula decided to visit her. Keep in mind, they're twins. Did I mention they're twins? They're twins. During this trip, they decide to take a ferry at the literal crack of dawn without telling anyone. Keep in mind, Sabina has 2 kids and a partner. Without telling anyone, they get on a ferry from Ireland to Liverpool without telling anyone. So they go to the St. Anne police station in Liverpool and they tell the cops, like Sabina tells the cops, yo, my partner is like crazy, you know, like abusive, like please help me, like just crazy stuff. So then the police in Liverpool get in touch with the police in Ireland and the Irish police like investigate and they find literally nothing. Like they don't find anything. After their little trip in Liverpool, they decide to take a freaking bus from Liverpool to London. And still no one knows why they're doing this. They're going to London. No one knows, right? So what they do is they have like these 2 big bags on them. The bags are gigantic. And they're sitting on the bus with the bag on their lap and they will not let anyone touch their bag. Like the bus drivers like put the bag in the back storage place. Like you shouldn't, it's too big for you to be carrying and having it on you like this. They're acting so bizarrely to the point that the bus driver is concerned, the passengers are concerned. The bus driver is so concerned that he makes like an unscheduled stop. And he's like, okay, give me the bags. I need to check your bags. And the girls are like, no, you're not going to check our bags. You're not going to check our bags. And he's like, if you don't want me to check your bag, get off my bus. So they got off the bus. At this stage, someone at the service station was reviewing, like looking at the CCTV footage and they're like, this is really bizarre. And they call the cops, right? And so the cops come and they talk to the twins and they're like, they're not suspicious. They're not weird. They're fine. They're good to go. After this incident, they go on the M6 motorway. They are walking on the highway, like walking on it. You guys, on. This is the highway. They're walking in the middle of the highway. And this isn't even the crazy bit. So you know how like there's like people watching CCTV footage of highways and they're watching this and they're like, these 2 girls are just walking the highway. They call patrol officers and they're like, hello, there are girlies walking on the highway. Come help. As the patrol officers are coming, Sabina literally jumps into traffic. Yo, she jumps into traffic where cars are literally going 70 miles per hour. She gets hit by a car going 70 miles an hour. And she just stands up, and walks to the shoulder of the highway after getting hit by a car. She's not limping. She's not in pain. Ouch, no, nothing. At this stage, people are calling the cops because they're like, this girl just got hit by a car going 70 miles an hour, and she stands up and starts walking to the shoulder like nothing happened. At this stage, the cops are talking to the patrol officers, and some cops are also talking to the twins. Out of nowhere, Ursula, the other twin, jumps into traffic. She jumps into the highway and gets hit by a 40-ton 18-wheeler truck. She gets hit by one of these, and not only gets hit by one of these, again going at 70 miles an hour, her body gets caught like on the wheels, and her legs are caught under the wheels. She's dragged by the truck and her legs are flat. You think, yeah, she's knocked out at this point. She's not knocked out. She's spitting at cops. She's hitting cops. She's cussing at cops. She's yelling, screaming. Like nothing happened. Like her legs are trampled, so she's not like running around. But she is like, screaming, yelling at them, fighting them off. Like after she gets hit, her sister Sabina literally, again, for the second time, jumps into traffic. She ends up getting hit by a Volkswagen. Look at the state of this car. This is important. Look at the state of it. The car has like dents on the roof. She gets hit so bad, she flies up in the air and falls down on the ground. She's unconscious for like 15 minutes, give or take. And when she wakes up, she's a little calm until Ursula looks at her, and she's like, they're going to take your organs. And she rises. She gets up and she starts running, and again runs on the opposite side of the motorway. As she's running, a cop is like trying to stop her. He's like, what are you doing? Stop. She turns around, punches him in the face. And you guys, if there was no footage of this, I watched the footage. If there was no footage, I would not believe this. She punches the cop and runs on the other side of the highway. Thank God no other car hits her, because they're seeing what's happening on the other side of the road, so they slow down. No other car hits her. But the fact that she got hit by a car going 60 an hour, she damaged the windscreen like I showed you guys, and she's still running at full speed. Like the cops are like, it takes 6 people, first of all, by the way, to restrain her. And one of the cops literally described her having inhumane strength because 6 people had to restrain her. Inhumane strength. So they restrain her, they sedate her, the helicopter comes, takes her sister to a hospital, they take her to a hospital. They get her checked out, Sabina. Ursula, obviously, her injuries are crazy, but Sabina's injuries are, like, they're not that bad. And they take her and everything, and then they put her in a jail cell to wait until she can speak to officers. And then after that, she's let go. She's outside a police station looking around confused. And then this guy called Glenn and his friends, they're walking past and they see this girl looking like a lost puppy. So Glenn very kindly tells her, you want to come over, like you can stay over. There are no hotels or like Airbnbs here, anything you can do, bed and breakfasts. Come over and stay over. She ends up unaliving. Keep in mind, Ursula, her sister who got hit by a truck, is in the hospital at this minute. She's just roaming around. Cops let her roam around after this whole ordeal. She unalives Glenn. Like, she stays with him for a couple of hours. She unalives him, runs out with a hammer. As she's running, she just stops, sits on a curb somewhere, takes the hammer and hits herself on the head over and over and over again. And this poor guy called Joshua, he sees this happening and he's like, what the so he gets out of the car and he tries to stop her. Girlie pulls the weapon out of her pocket, hits him over the back of the head, starts running towards a bridge. This bridge is like 30 foot up and then there's a highway under. This girl gets to the bridge, jumps into the highway, the bridge under it, she jumps into the highway and she's somehow still alive. She got hit by 2 cars, hits herself on the head with a hammer. Her head is filled and she jumps 30 feet up and she's still fine. She's alive. No one knows anything about Ursula, the other sister. So Ursula literally got let go from the hospital and she freaking went to Sweden for a little bit and like joined a church in like Washington or something. Her sister Sabine, like literally the prosecutors and like the other side, I don't know what you call them, I forgot. They literally they were like, she's like, we can't charge her with anything because like there's something genuinely wrong. And by the way, they tested both the girlies for drugs because the cops were convinced they were on drugs. They were on no drugs. It was just them. Well, it wasn't just them. I'll explain in a bit. So because they were convinced that there was something psychologically wrong with Sabina, she only served 5 years. And what they think was happening was a case of folie à deux, which folie à deux is basically like, usually happens to family members, and it translates to madness of two. So like, if, you know, a delusion that another person has, if it's a twin especially, or a family member, can be transferred to you. You can see the same hallucinations and have the same delusions as them. So they're convinced that that's what happened. But I'm not convinced by this. Like, this is way too bonkers for it to just be a case of folie à deux. Like, can I just state that these girlies are so mysterious? No one knows anything about them before that incident or after the incident. We just know about the incident itself. It's like they disappeared off the face of the earth. And by the way, you know the bags that they were like clenching to and they wouldn't let anyone touch? There was nothing suspicious in them. It was just like a bunch of phones and like one ID for one of the twins, but not the other. So like, no one knows why they were acting like this with the bag, even though there was nothing suspicious in it. I literally think about this all the time and I talk about it all the time, because how do you get hit by a truck, like an 18-ton, 40-ton truck, and you're just like cussing at cops and like smacking them and clawing at them? How do you get hit by 2 cars on a highway, jump off a bridge, hit yourself in the head with a hammer, and you still survive that? I'm not convinced of the folie à deux thing. I think something have had to, something. If you enjoyed this video, let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. I think this is like the longest video I've ever made, but I genuinely think it's worth it because what the hell?
Am I the asshole for showing up to guys' night after my husband didn't come home when he said he would? My husband has been hanging out with his guy friends every weekend for about a month. It generally doesn't bother me at all, but lately he has been saying, quote, I will be home after this beer. And that one beer turns into 6, and him coming home in an Uber around 3 to 4 a.m. And well, I want to hang out with my husband. There's never any ill blood or fighting about it. I know he needs his friends, as we are currently going through a stressful time and he needs to decompress. However, when he went out on Saturday, I told him, quote, if you aren't home by 8, I'm coming to find your ass. He laughed, said he would be home by 8, and that was it. Well, by 9, he still wasn't home. I knew this was going to happen, so I planned it all out. I'd already gone to the store and picked up a 30 rack, and this is actually kind of embarrassing, but I threw on some of his clothes, put my hair up, and put a hat on to make myself look more manly, and headed over to his buddy's house, where I knew he was. When I walked through the door, my husband starts dying laughing and bear hugs me. His buddies, I'm close to 3 of them, were also heavily amused and thanked me for the beer. There was no issue there. However, one of the guys that I don't know all that well lives next door, and his wife came over livid at like 2 a.m. and starts scolding him about being out so late, etc., etc. They have a baby at home, so it's 100% understandable. As soon as she saw me standing there, shit hit the fan even more. She started accusing him of lying about it, being guys' night. I did interject and say that I actually invited myself after my own husband didn't come home when he said, but she just put her hand up to me and told her husband to get home. I thought that would be the end of it, but my husband actually got a text from this guy yesterday saying that me showing up caused serious issues in his marriage and that next time he should tell me to, quote, stay the fuck home. My husband obviously laughed it off and said it isn't my fault there's issues in their marriage and that he was amused by me showing up. But now I feel utterly terrible. Am I the asshole?
I, 25 female, called the cops on my spouse, 28 male, last night, and now I don't know how to fix it. So last night I went out to dinner and then a few drinks with my friend. I came home afterwards and my boyfriend of 8.5 years had a few beers too, which was fine. We were both in a good mood and everything was great. I gave him my leftovers from dinner and he ate them and was very giddy and grateful. Fast forward about an hour. We were listening to music and the volume had been at a reasonable volume, but one of his favorite songs come on and he wanted to blast it up. Out of respect for my neighbors who have kids in the same building, I tried to reason with him to keep it a bit lower, but still a louder volume than what we had been listening up to this point. He kept insisting that he would not back down. He tried to grab the remote out of my hands and neither of us were letting go. We struggled for about a minute, at which point I grabbed his thumb to pry his hand off the remote and I held onto it with a good amount of force for a few seconds more, moving his hand away from me. While I still had his thumb in my grip, he hit me in the jaw and that's when I let go. He said I tried to break his thumb and that this was a defensive hit, and then tried to continue reaching for the remote again. He was not touching me at this point, but I warned him if he didn't calm down and back off that I would call 911. He said again that it was self-defense and I wouldn't do it. So I dialed 911 and showed him before pressing the talk button. He again said, "Go ahead, you're not gonna do it," and then reached at my phone to press the talk button himself. And I backed my phone away from him, surprised for a moment, but then just decided to hit the button and go ahead with the call. The cops showed up while I was still talking with dispatch, and we went over the incident outside while other officers went in to arrest him for assault. After giving my statement at the station and going over everything, I then realized that he was actually going to have to go to court for this, and I've basically been crying on and off ever since. No incident like this has ever happened before with us, and he has been under some stress with work this past week, and he has a short temper when drinking, but never gets violent with me or anyone when he's drunk. He doesn't even throw stuff around or break things either, just gets into arguments a bit more easily. I don't want this to end up giving him a record and mess up the rest of his life in terms of jail time, or even just making it difficult for him to get employment because of this one incident where yes, he hit me, but I'm not really injured, just shocked honestly. And now there's a no contact order on him until his court date, that's a month from now. I honestly just want him to come home so we can talk things through, but because this is considered assault, our entire relationship is up in the air right now, and I hate it so much, I wish last night had never happened. We live in Ontario, Canada, by the way. Does anyone know how I could get the Crown to drop the charges, or at least drop the no contact order?
I just remembered one of the most awkward, embarrassing encounters that I had with a man. This time, I was fucking my coworker. We were, seeing each other. We hadn't fucked yet, but, I was seeing my coworker, the intent was to fuck him. Whatever, we were going on a breakfast date. I decided to wear my Skims dress, tight as absolute fuck. I obviously wanted to look a little bit slutty on this breakfast date. Decided to wear that and a puffer because it was still a little bit chilly. This breakfast date, I was sat directly in the sun, so a bitch was hot as fuck. I was literally okay, no, I'm genuinely hot. I'm sweating just a little bit. I think nothing of this. I'm whatever, just a little sweat. I'm hot is what it is. So I go into work that Monday and I'm talking to my coworker who I just went on the date with, whatever. I'm being all flirty, I'm being all gorgeous, I'm being all cute. And this man writes to me on a whiteboard, "Did you get wet during breakfast?" Literally have a picture of it. I'll post it on my Instagram story. I'm sitting there thinking, I'm why the fuck is this man asking me if I was getting wet during breakfast? First of all, I was what about breakfast would make him think that made me soaking fucking wet? I asked him, I'm wait, what do you mean? Can you elaborate a little bit more? And he was there was a little wet patch on your ass area after breakfast. Immediately I'm oh my fucking god. Asshole was sweating. That little wet patch was my asshole sweating. It's so criminally embarrassing, and there's no fucking way I'm about to be oh no, I was not wet at all. It was just my asshole profusely sweating. Absolutely not. I responded and I'm yeah, no, I was so wet. You just get me so wet. And one thing I'm gonna do, lie to a fucking man, because there is no way. I'd rather boost his ego, make him feel on top of the fucking world, that me just sitting across from him at breakfast makes me an ocean down there. There was a time in my life that I am so grateful. Men are genuinely dumb. Grown ass man to think I got wet over breakfast just looking at him is so insane to me. He really thought he had it like that. And I just boosted the fuck out of his ego, being yup, absolutely, I was wet. No, my asshole was sweating because I was in the sun, you idiot. Man walks through life these days with a newfound ego, he's I could get her wet at breakfast. No, baby, it was all the sun. It was all the sun and had absolutely nothing to do with you. Especially because when I think about what our breakfast topic was, one, we were talking about my trauma, what the fuck is new. Number two, we were talking about the fact that he has only slept with one woman. If that made me wet, send me to jail. Actually, so embarrassing.
Story time of what happened before I got out of my house while it was burning down. So when the fire started, I was asleep right here, which is where my bed used to be. I woke up because I heard my dad yelling outside and the smoke detector was going off. Shortly after I woke up, I went outside my room to try and go down the stairs, and at the bottom of the stairs right here, there was nothing but pitch black smoke coming up towards me. At this point, I realized just how serious everything was, and I also realized if I went down the stairs and tried to get out of the house that way, I more than likely wouldn't be making it out. So I went back to my room and my dad broke a window that's sort of off camera in this direction. He threw a rock through it and started screaming to get out of the house as soon as I could. And one of my friends were also in the house at that time of the fire. They were with me in my room, and if you heard the voicemail that I posted, you can hear me telling them not to go to the window that my dad broke. And I said this because there was glass all over the floor and neither of us had on shoes. Now, since I had a ladder in my closet, I went to the window that was right here. and threw it down so my dad could set it up for us, but he went and got a better ladder that was much longer and much more sturdy. Once he put up the ladder, I let my friend go holding one of my dogs, and I grabbed the other dog and took her down the ladder with me. And after I got outside, I saw just how bad the fire actually was, and I started taking videos and documenting the whole thing. Now, I don't like to think about it, but I was very, very close to losing my life in this fire. Had I been asleep for just a few more minutes, the smoke would have made it to my room, and I really don't know if I would have been able to make it out in time. But thank God, everything worked out and both me, my friend, and my dogs are completely safe. And as far as I know, there were no other animals that were harmed in the fire. But there is one of our cats that we haven't seen since the fire. I'm really, really hoping that he's okay though and just hiding somewhere.
Am I the astronaut for divorcing my pregnant wife because she looked into my phone? My wife started jokingly making snide comments that I was having an affair. I thought she was teasing me, so I mostly ignored her or laughed with her. I didn't know she was actually serious. Then she was getting more irritated and arguments increased. In one argument, I asked her what the problem was, and she told me that I was cheating. She started telling me all the time I was late from work or how I was staring at women in the park, etc. I tried to explain everything and resolve her doubts. I even offered her therapy to clear her doubts. Then she started demanding to see my cell phone. I was like, nope, I don't have to do it. I never asked to see her cell phone, by the way. She told me if I have nothing to hide, I should do it. I told her she should trust me, and I should not have to give proof of my honesty to her. But she would not let it go, so I unlocked it and told her, if she looks into my phone, we are done. She checked my phone, and I just went numb. Of course she didn't find anything. I never cheated, and I don't plan to ever cheat. I told her I will move out, and we can figure out the rest. She freaked out and tried to apologize, but there's no going back. Now she is blaming it on the pregnancy hormones, saying she was having dreams that I was cheating. I understand that, but she should have trusted me. I don't have to provide proof. It should be implicit. Otherwise, why marry me? If she was having bad thoughts, we could just talk it out and go to therapy. She should not have put me in this position. It's very insulting that my own wife wants proof of my fidelity. That she thinks I'm a kind of person who will cheat on his wife, pregnant wife, on top of that. She called her parents and they called mine and they're trying to make me forgive her. I have made up my mind. She crossed the line. It's over. I just feel sad. I had planned lots of things. I had spent countless hours baby-proofing my house. I just wanted a happy family for myself and it's all gone. Lots of telltale signs in that paragraph. Lots of mentions of me and myself and I. Now I have to figure out how to be a single parent. My phone has been buzzing all day. I've stopped replying to texts and receiving calls. I do think I have a right to be trusted in my own marriage without having to give proof every step of the way. Edit, I largely work from home. I did not spend lots of time away from her. I have to go to work 2 days a week.
Story time on how I lost half a finger. Okay, for those of you that don't know, I actually have 9.5 fingers. This happened in 2015, so I was around 7 years old. But my mum and I were gardening and we didn't have a lawnmower at the time, so we used these, gardening shears. She was using them, and I was, pulling out the weeds, close to her. And then, snip! Guys, no hate towards her. I don't blame her at all in this situation. It was an accident. Accidents happen. At first I was confused on what happened because I didn't feel anything. I felt no pain. I don't know if it's because it happened too fast or, but she was like, oh my god, I just cut off a finger. And I was like, oh. I remember thinking, don't look down or you're going to traumatize yourself for the rest of your life. I didn't even know what it meant to be traumatized, but somehow I knew that I was, that I should, think about my future self and not look down. Anyway, she had to, go around the grass and look for the severed bit of finger. I think she wrapped it in a tissue and then we ran my, finger, under the tap. And then we drove to the nearest clinic and they cleaned it up and, bandaged it and everything. And then we went home. The next day I had to wake up at, 5 a.m. in the morning or something because I had to have an operation and I couldn't eat within, some time before the operation, so we had to have it really early. Later that day I just went and got my operation. I had a hospital room and I had a little TV and it was cool. This is the part that's really weird because this guy came in and was like, can I take some photos of your finger for a TV show? And I was like, oh. And then this was a couple months after. I was watching Operation Ouch and I swear I saw myself. But I can't find any clips of this. You know how at the end of every episode they go, oh, in the next episode we have, and I saw, this much of my face, from here, and I saw my earrings, and it was like a cut off finger, and I was like, bro, is that literally me? And then I turned the TV off because I got scared. But I never saw the episode, but I swear on my life it was me. I only found this out a few months ago. It turns out they only chopped it from here, but then they're like, okay, let's just make it clean and cut off the rest as well. And I was like, oh. And then I had a flight to catch the next day, so I can still feel everything. It's just like slightly muted, and I swear sometimes it just randomly starts hurting. And it like blood circulation is like really bad during winter. Like, yeah, the only downsides are I can't play guitar or piano properly, but like I'll manage.